Hello and welcome to Mindful Living, where we explore the art of living with the intention, balance, and inner peace. I am Avik, your host, guiding you through conversations on health, meditation, mental well being, mindfulness, and the mind body connection. Each episode features expert insights to help you grow, heal, and thrive. So, take a deep breath, relax, and join us on this journey to a more mindful and fulfilling life. So, let's get started.
Hello and welcome, listeners, to the Mindful Living podcast, where we explore the art of living with intention, mindfulness, and inner peace. I'm your host, Sana, and today we have a very special guest with us, Rich Lewis, an author, speaker, and coach who specializes in centering prayer as a transformative process. Rich has been a daily practitioner of centering prayer since 2014 and has written a powerful book titled Sitting with God, A Journey to Your True Self Through Centering Prayer. And today on the Mindful Living podcast, Rich will guide us through the practice of centering prayer and share how meditating, journaling, and visualization can lead to profound personal transformation. So, listeners, let's dive in. Rich, welcome to the show, and it's an absolute honor having you with us.
Thanks for having me. I look forward to our conversation.
Lovely. So, Rich, can you start by telling us about your journey with centering prayer and what initially drew you to this practice?
Sure. I discovered it in late 2013
Mhm.
in a book that I was reading, but I think I didn't know what I was looking for. I knew, like when I was young, I liked to go in nature and walk, and I didn't mind being by myself at times, and I didn't mind going on solo bike rides and that kind of stuff. So I think I liked the idea of solitude and silence, but at the time I didn't know what that meant and what I was looking for. And then in probably in like 2012 or so, I'd read a couple of books by a gentleman by the name of Carl McColman, and he talked a lot about contemplative prayer and contemplation and the power of silence. And I don't remember him saying a method, but I remember him talking a lot about it. So at that time, I would just sit in silence, and I found it hard because I didn't know what I was doing other than I was just sitting there. But then in late 2013, I was perusing Amazon looking for a book to read, and I came across a book called Healing the Divide: Recovering Christianity's Mystic Roots by Amos Smith. And in this book, he talked about a practice called centering prayer that he had been doing. And it was really a form of silent meditation, wordless prayer where you're just sitting. And it immediately intrigued me. So I began continuing to read his book. I emailed him on his website and we began a back and forth dialogue. And then more importantly, I just began trying this centering prayer practice for myself and reading other authors that shared centering prayer and their journey and how it has helped them and helped others. So I guess I found it on Amazon, but I knew that I was always interested in the idea of silence and solitude. I just hadn't figured out what was the best way for me to practice it.
Great. That's really a great journey, Rich. For those who are not familiar with this practice, what exactly is centering prayer, and how does it differ from other forms of meditation or prayer?
Sure. So centering prayer, let's give a short history. It's been around for about 50 years. It was actually created in the early 1970s by three Trappist monks, Father Keating, William Meninger, and Basil Pennington. Actually, one of them, William Meninger, was reading a book called The Cloud of Unknowing. And as he was reading this old classic book, kind of a method of silent, wordless prayer seemed to jump off the pages. So he began talking with the other two priests that I mentioned, and they created centering prayer. And I'll explain how you do it. But I guess I wanted to share that it's been around for about 50 years. Now, the
Okay.
idea of sitting in silence obviously has not been around for 50 years, but centering prayer has been around for about 50 years. And
Mm-hmm.
it is considered meditation, but it's also considered building a relationship with God. So it is meditation and a way to deepen and foster our relationship with God. Because
Mm-hmm.
during centering prayer, we believe we're opening to the presence and actions of God within us during this time. We don't believe we're God, but we believe the divine is within us. And during this time, we're opening to this presence, that's wonderful divine presence within. So it is meditation, but it is also kind of, as my book says, sitting with God, where we're sitting with the divine, we're sitting with God and getting ourselves out of the way. And
Mm-hmm.
then do you want me to describe how you do centering prayer?
Yes, please.
Okay. So centering prayer, you sit comfortably with your eyes closed,
Mm-hmm.
and then to begin your silent sit, you interiorly introduce what we call a sacred word. So it could usually be one or two or three syllables. So it could be beach, it could be a color, it could be divine, it could be trust, it could be Jesus. And this signifies we're starting our silent sit and we're opening to the presence and actions of God within. And
Mm-hmm.
then as we're sitting there in silence, when we begin to discover that we're engaging our thoughts, and what I mean by that is we begin to think, what am I going to do after this sit? What are the errands and duties and responsibilities I have to do? Or maybe we thought about something that happened before we sat down. We realize we're no longer sitting with the present moment. We're sitting with ourselves and our thoughts and our planning. So that's when we then just reintroduce that sacred word interiorly to let go of these engaged thoughts and just come back to the present moment and the purpose of our sit, of just to sit with God and open to the presence and actions of God within. So really it's just a continuous return to the present moment where God is, and letting go, and really just trying to clear our minds and let go of engaged thoughts and keep returning to the present moment. And we don't and then we let go of the sacred word as well. We're not using it as a mantra. And there are mantra practices. Centering prayer is just not a mantra practice. So you do that during the duration of your sit, whether it's 10 minutes or 20 minutes. You use your sacred word when you need it. Sometimes you naturally catch yourself. Other times you realize, there I go again, and you just kind of reintroduce the sacred word interiorly to let go of your engaged thoughts. But that's essentially how you do the practice.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. That is interesting. That is interesting. And you have shared that silence, as you mentioned, silence can be challenging in a culture full of distractions. So, how did you personally overcome the initial discomfort of sitting in silence? What advice do you have for beginners?
Sure. So I would say, take baby steps with this type of practice, because so perhaps anywhere from maybe if it's for the first time and the idea of it seems daunting and scary for you, try it for 1 to 5 minutes, and then gradually increase it to 10 minutes and 15 minutes and 20 minutes. And I think most people will find, because I've done it with groups and we've just done a 5 minute centering prayer sit, and most people will say that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. So I would say take baby steps and start with 1 to 5 minutes, see how it goes, see if this is a practice that resonates with you. And then if it does, you can gradually start increasing the time to 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or and even 20 minutes.
Hmm. Great. That's really great. And how has this practice, Rich, influenced your personal life and inner transformation over the years? What changes did you realize that you have experienced?
Sure, and that's the neat thing about these types of practices. Each person, kind of the fruits of the practice are unique for each practitioner. So in my case, I've noticed I'm a lot more confident in myself. I'm more willing to do things that are outside of my comfort zone. So before
Mhm.
centering prayer, I wasn't doing any of the things such. I didn't have a website before centering prayer called Silence Teaches. The idea of writing and publishing a book was not even on the radar. The idea of going on the podcast and talking to people like you was not on the radar, and speaking in front of small and large groups. And I even do one-on-one coaching. So none of that was on the radar. But with centering prayer, suddenly it was on the radar. So I got out of my comfort zone to try and do new neat things. And I guess I just wanted to share that the practice had given me confidence, and it challenged me to do new things, challenged me to help and serve people. And I wanted to share it with others in case it could help them the same way it has helped me. And maybe one last thing I'll say, what happens during centering prayers is quite a lot. One, we're releasing, if you sit, you meditate, probably any meditative practice, not just centering prayer, but if you do it daily and then it becomes a practice and you've been doing it for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, you're releasing tension in your body over all this period of time. So you're releasing a lot of tension in your body, whether you hold it in your forehead or your shoulder or your stomach. You're releasing repressed emotions that perhaps you didn't even know you had. And you're releasing and letting go of emotions that you know you have. So it's really, truly freeing you of a lot of physical and mental and emotional baggage that you really don't need to carry with you. So it has that kind of healing. And then what ends up happening is you're letting go of, because during centering prayer, maybe I'm scared. Well, I let go of my fear, and what's left is your true self, the person you were meant to be, the actions you were meant to take. So centering prayer has a way of helping you get out of the way, let go of fear, worry, anxiety, and then outside of the practice, begin to take action on things that you want to do, but perhaps were afraid to do.
Those are some great changes. So you also emphasizing journaling and visualization as complementary practices along with centering prayer. So how do you incorporate these into your daily practices and routine, and how do they complement the practicing of centering prayer?
Sure. So journaling, I think of, so I'll do my silent sits, and then outside of centering prayer, I like to journal. What do I think? Because during centering prayer, we're opening to the presence of the divine. And I think of centering prayer as a reverse prayer. God is praying in me what God knows I need, whether it's just inner peace and calm, or whether it's a nudge to do something and get out of my comfort zone, or perhaps a solution to a problem that I've been working on. So outside of centering prayer, I can journal. What do I think God has told me in these centering prayer sits? So it's kind of my time just to free form journal what's going on in my mind and heart, and how do I feel. So it's another way of just getting things off of my chest, but it's also another way of kind of exploring, what do I think I should be doing? What are some next things I should be working on? So I think of journaling as a lot of different things, helping me plan what I need to do in the future, as well as just helping me get things off of my chest and feel better. So that's how I think they complement each other. Is I'm jotting down the things that I think God has prayed in me, God wants me to do, and I'm also just letting go in journaling as well, and opening to God even in the moment of journaling. And then visualization, I do incorporate that into my practice. Actually, before I go into my silent sit, I like to visualize what I'm going to get done that day. So I think about the day from start to finish, and what things I want to do and accomplish, and I'll visualize that in my mind, certain tasks that are important to me that I want to get done today, and I'll visualize kind of their successful completion. And then I'll let go of it and go into my centering prayer sit. So I guess I do visualization right before centering prayer, right before I go into my silent sit. And then outside of centering prayer, I do journaling, because I'm journaling often, what do I think God wants me to do? What actions do I think God wants me to take? And that's how I kind of, that's how they all seem to work together for me at the present time.
Great. So now let's talk about your book, Rich, Sitting with God. You talk about the importance of connecting with your true self in your book. How does centering prayer help individuals discover their authentic selves?
Sure. So during centering prayer, as I mentioned, it's a letting go. We're letting go of thoughts and emotions. So we're letting go of fear, we're letting go of lack of confidence, we're letting go of anger, jealousy, worry. And what's left behind all of that is often things we want to do, because we often tell ourselves things that aren't true. I'm too young to try that, or I'm too old to try that, or I don't have the right skill set to do that. So centering prayer helps us let go of all of these emotions that we and things that we tell ourselves that aren't true. And then what's left is what is true, that you are the right person, and you just need to take the first step. And as you keep taking steps, that kind of the path becomes more clear. So it helps us connect to the things we want to do, but maybe didn't do because we were afraid or didn't have the confidence or thought, as I said, thought we were too old or too young. So we let go of all that. And then we begin to, with more confidence, take the next step on our true self and keep taking it.
Great. That's great. And for listeners who are interested in this practice, Rich, centering prayer practice, what is the best way to start? And how can they build consistency over time, which is the main part to focus on?
Sure. I always recommend for anyone new to the idea of this type of practice is to make it, first make a commitment to do it for 30 days. And then I would suggest they do it first thing in the morning. So before you do anything else that day, do this practice for 1 to 5 minutes, make a commitment to do it for 30 days. And then after the end of the 30-day period, see how you feel. Is centering prayer a practice that resonates with you? Did you enjoy it? And do you want to continue it? And then if so, keep doing it first thing in the morning, but then just start increasing the time to 5 and 10 and 15 and even 20 minutes over time. And then before you know it, you kind of have a morning routine that you've been doing for years. And then like I've done, you'll kind of create your own routine that works for you. So for me, I like to do some visualization as I go into the centering prayer. And then outside, and then when I'm done my centering prayer, I usually read from a current book I'm reading. And then I might even do some, as I mentioned, do some journaling as well. And I've kind of built for myself a nice routine, a nice morning routine.
Great. And I also want to ask you, you have been teaching centering prayer for years. What are some of the most common misconceptions you have seen people have about the practice, and how would you like to address them?
Some people think they're failing at the practice, and I say you really can't fail if you don't show up, and it doesn't mean you're a failure. But so some people feel like I missed a day, or I miss it too much, or I have too many engaged thoughts during this practice, so I'm not doing it right. And really, the main point is if you show up, you're doing it right. And then even if you miss a day, or you miss a week, just forgive yourself and show up the next morning for your silent sit. So I think some people are too hard on themselves, and some people think they're doing it wrong when really you can't do it wrong. All you need to do is show up, and the practice has a way of healing you and transforming you as you keep showing up. So I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions. And then another one is some people will say, I don't have the time to do a practice. And I would say, one of the great fruits of the practice is it has a way of giving me back time. Because of the practice, I'm finding the rest of my day is much more fruitful, because I'm able to let go of the things I don't need to focus on, and I can hone in and focus on the things that I need to. So some people will say I don't have enough time, and I'll kind of argue it has a way of giving you back time. The practice, one of the wonderful fruits of the practice is it seems to give you back time. So those are two things I do here is I'm failing at it when you really can't fail if you show up. And two, I don't have time, when kind of the opposite happens is it seems to give you back time.
Great. Thank you so much for addressing these misconceptions. And if our listeners want to explore about this beautiful practice of centering prayer for their personal transformation, Rich, how they can connect with you, how they can explore.
The best way is just to come to my website, silenceteaches.com. If they subscribe, I have a free, very to read short ebook on centering prayer if they want to further explore it. And then if they find it's a practice they want to continue, they could check out my book, Sitting with God, which is on my website, or they could even reach out to me. I love to respond to emails, and I've jumped on Zoom phone calls with some people from time to time. So my website, silenceteaches.com, is the best place, and check out my free ebook on centering prayer.
Great, great. We'll mention all the details in the show notes for all of our listeners. And Rich, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your personal journey of transformation and experiences with all of us today. And it's really encouraging and inspiring to hear how centering prayer, meditation, and journaling, and even visualization, they can be one of the best and efficient tools and channels for inner transformation and being more mindful, connecting with our true selves. So, thank you so much for coming on the show.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me on, and hopefully your community will find it helpful, very helpful for them.
Definitely, definitely. And listeners, for those of you who are interested in learning more, be sure to check out the show notes along with this episode on your favorite podcast platform. And if you enjoyed today's conversation with our guest, Rich Lewis, don't forget to subscribe to the Mindful Living podcast and leave a review. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. And we look forward to sharing more mindful conversations like this with you next time.